Today, we're going to be comparing Carolina Herrera Bad Boy Cobalt versus Cobalt Elixir. This is going to be a comparison of these two fragrances to find out which one is best and which one is going to be right for you. Now, at the end, I'm going to give you a couple of suggestions that I think are much better than these two fragrances. So, starting off with the original Cobalt. Now, this was a really welcome change, a nice change to the Bad Boy line that was typically these really sweet and almost clubbing style, going out, fun fragrances. Now, I actually really like the Bad Boy line, especially Bad Boy EDT, the original Bad Boy, and also Bad Boy Le Parfum. I think those two fragrances are really fantastic in what they're trying to do, but they are quite situational. They're very sweet, they're chocolatey, and they're not really suited to anyone who wants just a fresh, versatile, easygoing fragrance. So they released the first Cobalt here, I think in 2022. Now, they call this a Eau de Parfum Electric, whatever that means. I think Carolina Herrera are quite big on like the marketing stuff, the gimmicky words that they use in perfumery. And I'm not sure about the Bad Boy bottles. I used to like them, but now, to be honest, they're just annoying. Because of my fragrance sample website, visionaryfragrances.com, I buy the big 150ml bottles, and they're just heavy, cumbersome, and a little bit annoying. But what does that matter? Let's talk about how the fragrance actually smells. So Cobalt, the original, the first one, is very versatile. You get that straight away. It's a very versatile, easygoing scent. It's a really good mix of sweet notes, fresh notes, woody notes, and earthy notes. It's kind of these contrasting notes, but they balance really well. Now, when I say it's sweet, there's a sweetness in there, but it's not like a vanillic sweetness. It's not anything that's syrupy or dense. It just has a sweetness, but I don't even know what it's from. It's just a slight sweetness that's in there that contrasts with the fresh notes and the earthy notes, but they do it in a really nice, balanced way that it smells incredibly versatile and actually has a kind of unique quality to it. I think the uniqueness comes from a plum note, which you don't often smell in fragrances. It's not a typical fruity note that we often smell in fragrances, and I think it goes really well with the kind of earthy, aromatic notes that are in Cobalt. Now, when I say Cobalt is versatile, I really mean that. It's versatile in when you can wear it in the time of the year. It's an all year round, all occasion fragrance. It can be worn going out, it can be worn to the office, it can be worn on a date night, and also it's versatile in the sense that it is not really, I can't really put it into any age category. It can be worn by people who are really young, like 15, 16, 17. Also, it can be worn by people in their 60s, 70s, whatever. It has a very versatile scent profile and also a uniqueness which I really like. Now, the issue with Cobalt, for me, is the performance. Now, this is a very subjective opinion because fragrances work differently on everyone, and you might have incredible performance from Cobalt. On me, unfortunately, I don't know what it is about the fragrance. It just doesn't last on my skin. And when I say it doesn't last, I mean after 2 hours, I'm really struggling to pick it up. And it's not because of going nose blind. I spray it on my hand and I smell other things. I really try and clear my nose so I'm not going nose blind, and it's a fragrance that just doesn't work on my skin. So it's a fragrance I don't particularly warm to that much because I don't get the longevity, but I think this is a very subjective opinion just from my own experience, and you might have a completely different opinion yourself. Now, overall, I would give Cobalt a 6.5 out of 10. I think the overall smell is really nice, especially the opening with the plum note, and then it transitions into the kind of earthy undertones, but I do find it might become a little bit boring as you wear it more often, and I think the performance, at least on me, really lets it down. So I'm going to give it at 6.5 out of 10. Now we're going to take a look at the more newly released Elixir. So this is the new Elixir version of Cobalt, and they call this one an Eau de Parfum Elixir, whatever that means. So it's not a parfum, an extrait de parfum, it is still an Eau de Parfum, the same as the original. So it's just called an Eau de Parfum Elixir. These whole Elixir fragrances are getting a bit ridiculous, aren't they? Because Elixir doesn't really mean anything in fragrances. It doesn't mean extrait de parfum, although I think the Sauvage Elixir is an extrait de parfum. I might be wrong. I think it's an extrait de parfum, the original kind of Elixir that came out, but this one is an Eau de Parfum concentration. So this one smells similar to the original Cobalt, but it's sweeter. You have a vanilla note in there, and they have taken away the plum note, which I thought was really interesting in the original. So in the original Cobalt, we spoke about how it was really versatile with the mix of earthy notes, with fresh notes, sweet notes, and woody notes. However, the Elixir version is more sweet. It hasn't got the kind of freshness that is in the original Cobalt, which made it really interesting, and it goes in a more slightly darker vanilla tone. Now, what they've done with this is similar to what YSL done with, you know, the YSL Y line. So you've got a few different ones, but EDT first one, EDP, the best one. And then you've got Le Parfum, which is the kind of darker iteration of YSL-Y. But YSL-Y Parfum or Le Parfum, for me, wasn't really enjoyable because it didn't need to go down this kind of dark, sweeter path. YSL-Y is really good when it's really fresh, versatile, and uplifting. That's what it's supposed to be. At least that's my opinion. So this one does a similar thing where it takes away the freshness of what it's supposed to be Cobalt. It's the fresh bad boy, and just adds some kind of sweetness, and overall I find it less enjoyable than the original Cobalt. To me, this Elixir version just doesn't really have a place in my collection. I think it's quite redundant. I think if you want a sweet version of Bad Boy, just go for Bad Boy EDT, the original one, which is beautiful, and I think my next video is going to be about the original Bad Boy. I really want to talk about it. Or go for Bad Boy Extreme, the gold one. That's also a great fragrance. Or if you want something that's really green and very daring, go for Le Parfum, but we'll talk about this in the next video. So I wouldn't go for Cobalt Elixir if I wanted something sweet. I'd go for one of the other Bad Boy fragrances. If I wanted something in the Bad Boy line that is really versatile and fresh, I would just go for the original Cobalt. So in that sense, the Elixir is quite redundant. Now, another issue with Cobalt Elixir is the performance on my skin is even worse, a lot worse than the original Cobalt. I don't know what it is. I don't know what it is about the fragrance, about what the notes or the ingredients, the aroma chemicals that were used in there, but it just doesn't perform well, and I really mean that. It is terrible on my skin. I recommend that you try them on your skin so you can see how they perform. Now, listen, some people get really good performance from them. It's just my personal experience on these fragrances. The performance is awful, but it's really bad with the Elixir, and it's just kind of average to poor with the original Cobalt. I would give Cobalt Elixir a 5 out of 10. To me, it is unnecessary, it's unimpressive, and it is a bit of a cash grab because Cobalt was a very popular release. Now, I told you I was going to give you a great alternative, and that is PACO Rabanne Invictus Platinum. I don't know if this is discontinued, but I think you can still buy it online. This is similar to Cobalt, but it is more of everything, so it is a bit more earthy, it's a bit more robust, it just does everything in a more interesting way. It has this interesting absinthe note, which is kind of green and spicy and minty, so it has this really fresh and almost invigorating opening, but then it becomes earthy with patchouli, and it just has much better performance and character, in my opinion, than the Cobalt fragrances. It does smell very synthetic. There's not really any natural smelling fragrances in here particularly, so that is something you should be mindful of, but I get more enjoyment, better performance from PACO Rabanne Invictus Platinum. Now, let me know, what do you think of these 3 fragrances I have mentioned? I'm looking forward to hearing your thoughts, and my next video is going to be talking about the other Bad Boy fragrances in the line. See you soon.